Hello and welcome to How to Love Your Body. We are Jenna and Lauren, your intuitive eating counselors and soon to be therapists. And we are here to talk about intuitive eating, the 10 principles. And today we're talking about principle 4 and 5 of the intuitive eating book.
How to love your body.
So let's just dive right in. Principle 4 is called Challenge the Food Police. Also, if you have not watched the previous 2 episodes, we go through number 1 through 3. If you'd like to kind of go through the whole series along with us.
We're on our little intuitive eating series. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Principle 4 is challenge the food police. So here's the little summary. Scream a loud no to thoughts in your head that declare you are good for eating minimal calories or bad because you ate a piece of chocolate cake. The food police monitor the unreasonable rules that dieting has created. The police station is housed deep in your psyche, and its loudspeaker shouts negative barbs, hopeless phrases, and guilt-provoking indictments. Chasing the food police away is a critical step in returning to intuitive eating, which, in my opinion, is very tied into ditching the diet mentality, because the food police is part of our thinking in the diet mentality. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of another point of like, we still need to keep working on our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So really, this is just working on your mindset around food. So how you talk about food, how you think about food, how you think about yourself when you're eating food. And so the first step is really just become aware. How do you talk about food? Oh, I really shouldn't have eaten that. I was so good last night. I was so bad last night. This is bad for you. That's bad for you. I shouldn't eat anything after this time. Oh, this has too many carbs. Any sort of talk or thoughts that have to do with food and the rules around it, we want to get that out of there. So they have a little diagram in the book, and it's a Venn diagram. And the 3 rings are food police, the diet rebel, and nutrition informant. So the food police is the one that's saying, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, that's bad for you. You can't eat that, you can't eat after this time. So it's a bit of a like helping you follow the rules, helping. I use that term loosely. The diet rebel is the one that goes, oh, screw it. And kind of the opposite side of, I'm rebelling against this. I don't care anymore. I give up. And that's the cycle we're in. And then nutrition informant, that's really like the orthorexia side of, oh no, well, this is good and this is bad. And this is how many nutrients are in that. And kind of the snitch, if you will, about what food has what and where it fits in your life. And then in the center of all those is being a dieter. So these are all destructive voices in our work as in our time as dieters. And these are the voices that we want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can ditch the diet mentality.
Right. I think when I'm thinking of the food police, or it's really, because some people might say like, well, the food police is just telling you like, maybe you shouldn't eat, donuts all day long, or like the food police is good because it's telling you like, these are the things you shouldn't eat because they're so unhealthy and all this stuff. And okay, so there's a little bit of that, but it's coming from an intention that has nothing to do with you connecting to your body. So the difference between like the food police is it's a rule. It's not connected to your body. There's no like, well, let me drop in and see how it'll make me feel, and then I'll decide how much I want to eat of it, or if I want to eat it, or it's literally like there's no consideration of how your body feels or what it wants. It's like, oh, no, keep the bread off. I don't eat bread because that's what the food police is saying. It says no bread. That's different than if you're like, well, let me ask my body if I would like bread. And sometimes your body's like, heck yes, I want bread. That sounds great. And sometimes it might say, well, it does sound really good, but actually I'm kind of full and I don't really want the bread right now. Maybe I'll have it later or tomorrow or whatever. So there's a big difference between just having the food police and then also having it incorporated into your body signals. So food police has 0 body signals. And that's why we want to get rid of the food police, so then we can actually drop into our body and figure out, what do we actually want to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really understanding like you do not need to police the way you eat in order to be healthy and give yourself nourishment. Because the kind of the powerful voices, they say there is the nutrition ally. So the destructive voices is the nutrition informant. So it's going, oh, that's bad. I can't believe you ate that. That's so unhealthy. Da, 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 da. Whereas the nutrition ally would go, oh, hey, like we haven't had many veggies today. Maybe we could make a salad with dinner. It's much more positive. It's much more like tuning in, like, oh yeah, that would feel good. And I'll make my best salad that I love. And it just kind of gives you a little like, maybe I could have something with this. Or, oh, I haven't had much protein today. Maybe I'm going to add some chicken to my salad or whatever it is. Or I haven't had many carbs today. I'm not feeling very satisfied. I'm going to put some bread with this. Like it's not always, oh, fruit and vegetables and lean protein. It's all the food groups. And so there is a part of you that can still consider nutrition without it being like a drill sergeant or police that's trying to keep you in line. Because as we know,
think of it as like friends. Like, who would you rather hang out with? Would you rather hang out with a nutrition informant or the nutrition ally? And it's like, if somebody's in your head and you're like, that was rude, or that's harsh, or that I don't like that. That's the voice that you want to get rid of, because that's not somebody you'd want to hang out with anyway. But if you hear like positive, feel good, just like a good vibe around like the voice in your head around the food, that's probably your nutrition ally. So you can kind of see it as, who do you want to hang out with? And that's how you can decide who's being pushed out and who you'd like to not even listen to, but collaborate with.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so it says, how does it hurt? So the food police scrutinizes every eating action. It keeps food in your body at war. This is how it helps. It doesn't. So this voice is never going to have a place. You cannot turn it into an ally. You don't soften it to like become a part of undieting. Like we don't need it there. You don't need to be policed. You're a grown up. You don't need someone looking over your shoulder, even if it's your own voice telling you what you should and shouldn't do. You don't need that. So imagine like a real police officer following you around, go, hey, did that wrong, shouldn't do that. Oh, that's technically not allowed. Like, who wants to live like that? Not me. So you definitely want like voices in your head that are maybe guiding you and supporting you, but not belittling you and ruling the roost. Like, yeah, the nutrition ally might be there and thinking, oh, this would be good or that would be great. But sometimes you're like, yeah, I know that might feel good, but I'm at a birthday party. I'm not going to go out of my way to go try to find the veggies. Like, this pizza looks so good, I'm just going to have some. And so it doesn't rule the roost. It just kind of might be there to support you. So there are so many different voices. So I recommend, if you really want to dive deep, this is like one of the longest chapters in the book, is challenging the food police, because there's so many nuances to it. And so I recommend checking out if you want more information. But a couple other points. So like the diet rebel. So it harms us because it usually results in overeating and self-sabotage. So it's the opposite side. So remember, that's another motivator, is if you're hearing that food police, remember the diet rebel isn't far behind. So that might encourage you to go, oh, I hear a food police thought, I'm going to start shifting these, because I know if I let that voice keep running, that diet rebel voice is just going to pop in. And I hate when that happens. I hate going into those binges. I hate getting into that self-sabotage place of like, screw it, who cares how I feel? Doesn't matter. I'm just going to eat everything I can find. Like, that's really what so many people are here to try to get out of. And I understand that it's kind of that diety part of us that wants to stop binging. And so that's why a lot of people seek this work, but that's okay to start. Hopefully you get to a place where that's not the point of this work. But just know that getting rid of that food police, questioning that food police, shifting away from it is going to help you a lot with preventing those other voices from coming back and kind of taking over. But I do think it's interesting that they say the diet rebel can become the rebel ally. So it can help you guard your food turf or boundaries. So one thing I noticed, an example of this, I think, would be some of our clients are like, oh, well, I have like 2 teenage sons at home and I buy chips and they're eaten in a day. So I kind of feel forced to like eat them really quickly. And you don't want that. So the diet rebel might go, oh my God, there's not enough. I got to get these in because my kids are all going to eat them. So I'm going to eat tons of chips today. But the rebel ally might go, no, you know what? I want my chips. I really love having those chips. So I'm going to buy a separate bag for me and put my name on them. And my kids don't get to go into that. So I know I'm confident that they're there when I need them. So I don't have to like rush and eat them all right now. So it kind of gives you those boundaries of like, hey, no, this is my food. I want some food available for me. And just because you're my loving family that's hungry doesn't mean you get to eat it all before I can even go see what's in the pantry. So that's an example of how the rebel ally can shift and still be helpful. But I don't really like the name rebel ally because it's not rebelling just to have potato chips that are yours. But I think they're trying to like make the
I think
voices
it's like
related.
the logical ally or
Yeah.
something. Like figure out the boundaried ally, the person that's looking at your life and then seeing how to fit it into your life that works for you.
Mm-hmm. And making sure you have enough food available and boundaries around your food. And maybe if you made a plate of food and your kid, like my kids, I make my breakfast and they come and eat half of it while I'm eating it. Like, luckily, that's fine. They're little enough that they don't eat enough that it bothers me. But there might come a point where I'm like, no, these are my boundaries. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is my breakfast. Go away. You already had
Yeah,
your own.
our food is not ours with young children.
It is definitely not. So I wanted to do a couple more points on this, and then we'll move on to number 5. So it says negative self talk often makes us feel despair. The feeling of despair can trigger sabotaging behaviors. So I think that's one of the huge mindset shifts here is thinking, if I'm hard on myself, I'll do better. That is never how it works. If you're hard on yourself because you skipped a workout, you're likely to not go for longer. If you're hard on yourself because you ate that cookie, then you're likely to binge. If you're hard on yourself because you didn't get enough vegetables in, tomorrow you're actually be more resistant to getting those vegetables in because you kind of go, what's the point? I suck. I'm not doing good enough. So I'm just going to say, screw it. And I'll start again on Monday. So really, I mean, that's the biggest point I would make in this chapter is figure out, oh, this negative self-talk actually isn't helpful. Like this isn't going to have me eating better. This isn't going to have me stay in line. This is actually going to push me far enough that I start rebelling the other way. So I need to start letting this harsh voice go. And I think that'll help you a lot because I know there is motivation in there thinking, oh, but if I keep it, maybe I'll like be better. I'll be good. I'll eat better. If I like being hard on myself isn't a bad thing. So the one takeaway from this chapter to me is understanding that speaking kindly to yourself, having these ally voices is going to get you to where you want to go so much faster. And that's a place of balance and feeling good and allowing it all and feeling totally free around food and feeling more at home in your body. And you're going to get there by thinking more kind thoughts to yourself.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I would say this week, really just get curious and be aware of what voice you are collaborating with. I don't even, again, you're not listening to, they are not your boss. Even the ally, the ally doesn't get to tell you what to do. You're on a team, so you get to have a conversation. So just be aware of your thoughts. And if the food police is really, really loud, then that's okay. Now you know, and now you know what you can do to shift those thoughts and kind of bring in the ally instead. And of course, I mean, this work, there's a lot of moving parts to this work. So it's not just like, well, just don't listen to the food police. It's fine. Yes, we're going to have to do a lot of work and a lot of unlearning and a lot of rebuilding. So just, it doesn't have to happen overnight, and you'll continue to do the work and you will get there.
That's right.
Okay. So we're going to move on to principle number 5. I feel like, I mean, every time we go through a principle, I'm like, gosh, that's such a good one. But I feel like I'm going to say, like, this is one of my favorite ones because I do find how important it is in order to do all of the principles. So, okay, the principle is discover the satisfaction factor. Satisfaction is, like, so key to intuitive eating because I mean, you need everything, but, like, if you don't have satisfaction, if that is out of the equation in intuitive eating, it's really not possible to really have a free, peaceful life around food. So just to kind of share the first little blurb around this is It says the Japanese have the wisdom to promote pleasure as one of their goals of healthy living. In our fury to comply with diet culture, we often overlook one of the most gifts of existence, the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in the eating experience. When you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. And gosh, the diet culture, whoa, there's no pleasure in eating. Because even if you allow yourself to eat, you're feeling guilty and shameful, and there might be a binge. So it's not like, well, sometimes I allow myself to eat what I want. But yeah, but are you truly feeling peaceful around that? And then if you're like restricting and not allowing, there's no satisfaction in that. And that just leaves you like not settled. Yeah, not content. You're not feeling good, and food continues to be on your mind. So when I say satisfaction is like one of the most important things in intuitive eating, is because in the book there is a wheel, and in the middle is satisfaction, and on the outside there's all the 10 principles. Or yeah, I'm like 9 or 10. So all the principles, you got to add satisfaction into all of those in order to make them, I don't want to say work, because it seems like intuitive eating is like it either works or it doesn't. It's like intuitive eating is more of like a basic, it's just being.
Right. I think the point there is to decide what works means. Because to have it work, you do need to allow. If you don't allow all food, if you keep counting calories, if you are trying to lose weight, it won't work. But what we mean by work is find peace with food, not think about food all day, not binge eating, having a healthy, normal relationship with food where you're eating all the different types of things and you're just at peace. So there is kind of a line where like, yeah, it's not going to work if you're still dieting. It's not going to work if you're trying to pursue weight loss. It's not going to work if you don't focus on being satisfied or eating enough. Like that's just like the definition of intuitive eating. But it's not like, oh, it doesn't work as in like, oh, I haven't lost weight. There's no visual representation of it working. It's only an internal, how you feel representation of it working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. So I did want to bring in just some examples, but here's another interesting thing to talk about is for many of our clients, feeling a sense of satisfaction in a meal actually decreases their yearning for foods at a later time. We have had our clients compare having a full course meal for dinner with just picking or scrounging. When they take the time to prepare a meal that attracts their sense of smell, taste, sight, and so forth, they invariably report a feeling of satisfaction and a decreased need for more food later in the evening. I'm like, hello. So it's like you are eating food that you enjoy, that satisfies you. You sit down and have an actual meal, and then that actually helps you feel content, feel good, feel nourished. And so what happens? You don't think about food all day long because you are content. You are eating foods that you truly desire and that you truly want. And in a little bit, we'll share more about like variety. Yeah, I can hear somebody saying, yeah, well, the foods that I choose aren't the healthy ones. Or if I had a choice of eating satisfying food, I would never eat a vegetable in my life again. And we'll talk about variety. But the point is, I think step one is you got to start adding satisfying foods and really sit down with it, because we have talked about many times where if you eat, let's just say you eat food and you feel like you've eaten enough, like let's just say in volume, you've eaten like, I have eaten enough food, I shouldn't be hungry still. Why do I still feel like I want something? So if you have that like grazing feeling after you eat, that means that you did not satisfy yourself, even if you ate enough food. So that is going to make you continue to think about food. You're not going to feel settled. You're not going to be able to focus on your day. Like, we have busy lives. We can't just think about food all day long. Like, have your meal, be satisfied, and move on. You don't want to be in that picking here and there and sitting there and have a snack here, but then you didn't have enough, so then you keep going through the cupboards, and it's really not it's not a satisfying feeling. It's really not, it's unpleasurable to have that experience, because I feel like you're just living in frustration because you just keep trying to grab things. And then by the end of it, you kind of feel overly full, but you feel like you didn't eat anything because you didn't really sit down with the meal. You just were like having bites of things and maybe restricting things that you really wanted. So it's really important to remember, if you are satisfied now, it says that you will also be content later. It's not like you're just going to be eating food all day long when you actually are sitting with satisfaction.
I definitely noticed that for me. Like snacking doesn't work for me. I have to have breakfast, I have to have a lunch, and I have to have a dinner. That lunch might be a snacky lunch. Like I love like, meat, cheese, olives, some veggies on there, crackers. Like I like that kind of lunch, but it's a plate full of food. It might be snacky foods, but to me, I eat enough where I feel full. I might even have chocolate after to feel done. But then I'm like, okay, I feel done. There's literally nothing else I would want right now. Like I feel really good, like perfect. It hit the spot. I'm good. And like
you don't think about the food.
Yeah. And I've also noticed lately just a little like thing that people might notice in themselves. If I have like a big meal, like we got we takeout last night, and I ate the whole thing. It was like enchiladas and rice and beans, and I got too full from it. And I was like, oh, I'm done. Even though 99% of the time I like to have dessert, I find if I get quite full from a meal, I feel satisfied and I don't want it. Whereas if I have a meal, it's kind of like, it was all right. And I'm like, not hungry anymore, but it wasn't like, ooh, that really hit the spot. Then I always want some dessert to feel done. So it's like, do what you need to feel totally done. Because then I don't ever need to eat after dinner or dessert. It's like, because I'm so genuinely good. Or if you have a nice solid lunch, I can go a good few hours before I need a little snack. Whereas if I'm kind of snacking, that feeling never ends, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not fun when that feeling never ends. And I know this happened to me over the weekend. I was making like a spread, like a board of like veggies, like all this fun stuff that I really enjoy. Like it was a very satisfying like spread. But when I went to the grocery store, I came home and I started making the board because I was going to have it for a friend. We were like going to watch a workshop together, and I was just going to have like little snacks for us. And as I was making it, I was also hungry. It was like time for me to, not that I have a specific time, but I was like, my body is hungry. So while I was making it, I was eating all the things and I was laying it out, and it was like really, like it looked really good, and I was really excited to have it. But by the time I finished the whole beautiful board of food, I was full. But then I was kind of mad at myself because I was like, I know I ate the food and it was tasting good, but I feel like I didn't have the experience of eating. But now my body feels full, and now I feel frustrated because I don't want to continue to eat because I'm full. And so that just is a great example of, I did eat satisfying food, but I wasn't allowing myself to really sit with the pleasure of it.
Well, especially with company, and you're with a friend eating it, and maybe you have like a little like bubbly with it or something. So it's like, oh, this feels fun and enjoyable. But even though you ate the same food, so that's a satisfaction. Right. That's just a point. Part of the satisfaction may be like who you're eating with, how you're eating.
Like your environment.
For me to be satisfied, I'm one of those people that like I like to set up in front of my show, have my show ready. Like I don't want to eat until my show's playing, and I like sit there with my either computer or in front of the TV. And I do like to eat with TV, but that's satisfying to me. So it actually makes me feel like, oh, I've had a little break. I've watched one of my good shows and I've eaten. Oh, I feel like that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Like literally my friend came over and I didn't even eat the whole time she was there because I already ate. It was like really disappointing in a weird way. So anyway, that's just a good example of satisfaction, even if it's, there's so many moving parts to everything. Like there's moving parts to just talking about satisfaction. There's moving part, we'll move on. Okay. So I want to talk about thinking about what you really feel like eating. There is a step-by-step process in the book. So like Jenna said, like if you really want to really dive into every principle and get every source of information, read the book, but we're given a good, little blurb on it. So one thing that you really want to do, because it's like, okay, well, how do I choose satisfying food? Like, what do I do? We're so used to choosing what diet culture tells us that's okay to eat. So you want to think about what you really feel like eating. So what I like to do is I like to pretend like I think about when I'm choosing a food that I want, I think about eating it before I eat it. And I can kind of ask myself, does that sound good? And that really works for me. Just having the visual of seeing myself eating it and like closing my eyes and seeing if I'm tasting it and how it feels. So that's something that you can do, but it's a lot of questions and a lot of Just getting curious about how your body feels. So it's like, what do I feel like eating? What food aroma might appeal to me? Like, think of your senses. What smells good? Visually, looking at food, how does that sound? How will it taste in my mouth? So you can picture it in your mouth. And then another thing to ask yourself is like, what's going to be most satisfying is what kind of taste do I want? Do you want sweet or salty or savory or sour? Any of the food senses of taste, like what would feel most satisfying in that moment? Because you can really, there is a time when I'm like, salty sounds really good or sweet, and there's a difference. And if you're going to eat some big sweet thing when actually you really wanted something salty,
It doesn't feel good.
it just doesn't feel, and it's not, and what is it? It's not satisfying. Even if it was the sweet thing that you actually genuinely like, if your body isn't wanting it, it's telling you like, this is not, I'm not content. I did not ask for this. So you really want to listen to your body. And you can also ask yourself something like, do I want like the texture of it? Is it crunchy or smooth or creamy or soft or whatever the texture? Also hot, cold, moderate. Sometimes a really, really hot latte sounds good, and sometimes it's just a nice coffee. Not saying that's your meal, but just a good example. And how do you feel in your body right now? Sometimes you're eating when you're moderately hungry, so it's not so much. So you might want to eat in a way that's, that's a little, I guess the word is heavy and light, which I don't really love, but because I feel
too much, like it might be just too much for you at that moment.
Right. Maybe you want to eat a little less right now, or just something that feels like it's going to sit in your body that feels good, however it is that you're feeling. And just kind of asking, how will my stomach feel after I'm done eating this? Because you can really ask yourself that. Like sometimes I think about food, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm not ready for that. That's going to feel like too much to me right now. Or it's like, oh, well, I'll just take, let me just have a bite. I just actually wanted a taste. Or you never have to say no altogether. It's just asking yourself, how is it going to satisfy me and how is it going to feel in my body? So this is not about like deciding which foods I'm allowed to eat and not allowed to eat. It's asking yourself, what foods do you actually want to eat? And then eating in a way that it feels good and actually satisfying.
And sometimes it won't feel good and you've eaten too much or you've eaten the wrong thing, and that's fine.
Totally.
Like it's going to take trial and error, and it's not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, just remember that it's never going to be perfect. We're not like robots with like perfection of how we eat so perfectly, so our body just is always in this one alignment. It's going to be different all the time. So another thing I wanted to really cover is we kind of already said it. It's make your eating experience more enjoyable. So that's not just how it tastes. It's, appreciating your food, sitting. I know it's hard. Sometimes you just got to get a little present. You got to sit down with your food at a table or at a desk. If you find yourself at the cupboard, just eating, standing up, and then moving on with your day.
Or even really plate it and take it in front of even if you plated it and took it in front of your computer, I think that's better than standing up in the cupboards and eating. So it's not like you have to sit down in silence at your table. And like, to me, that's not pleasurable. That's not satisfying. I like to either be listening to something, watching something, talking to somebody, and someone might say, that's distracted. You need to be mindful. It's like, well, typically people want to be super mindful to try to eat less. And that's not my goal ever. It's just to have it be enjoyable. So what's enjoyable to you, but typically plating it will be better. Or even for me, if I want chips, I'll take the whole bag and sit down with the whole bag and just stop when I'm done. But I won't like take a couple and then keep going back to the cupboard. Like I don't like doing that because it's too like peckish.
Yeah, if you just got a little handful and then walked away, you got to make sure you have enough.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be enough or else you're going to have that crazy feeling. So it's also just making sure there is an abundance of food. Not that you have to pile it so high, but just not a little, let me just grab a little bite out of the fridge. You're going to go back and then you're not going to realize, like, sometimes you're like, I don't even know what I ate. Like, I know I ate, but I'm not sure what I ate. So really continue to have that, like, presence, but also, I mean, with our clients, we do like to ask them to sit down and have, like, one meal.
Yeah, try it one time.
Yeah, like a no distractions meal, just one time, just so you can get the experience of what it's like to actually just sit with you and your food and be actually present. And then, yes, that's not going to happen every time. That we do not do that.
I never do that.
Yeah. I mean, typically for me, I eat at like my desk at my computer when it's lunchtime and the kids are at school. I'm not like sitting like, okay, time for me to be present with my food. It's like, I got a lot of work to do. I'm going to just go bring it to my desk, but I have my meal. And I'm making sure that I'm checking in too. Like, wait a minute, the last 5 minutes I've been a little like looking at my computer. Let me just like make sure I take a bite and taste it. You can get present anytime you choose. Okay, so just taking some deep breaths, that's cool. Pay attention to the sensations of eating. Taste each bite, or at least as much as you can. And then just check in with your fullness as you're eating, because a lot of the time you'll notice that it's starting not to taste as good once you become full. Not in like a bad way, just in a like your body's like desensitized to the taste. So it's like, I am now giving you signals that I'm almost to the level of fullness that I would like to be, therefore I can stop. And that's not a rule. It's just a signal with your body that you get to have that conversation with. You can blow past that and keep eating, or you can say, oh, yeah, it's actually not tasting as good. I'm satisfied. I'm content. Let's move on. Okay, the other thing I wanted to touch on was variety. Yes, eating a variety of food is healthy. And I'm going to say healthy because that means cookies, candy, ice cream, veggies, fruits, proteins. Like, healthy is eating every single food that you're able to have in your body. I'm not talking about people with allergies. I'm just saying having a variety of all foods is a healthy way of eating, and that will probably provide you the most satisfaction.
Yeah, both mentally and physically healthy too.
Yes, because I would say me sitting down with a food, okay, I'm a sweets person. I really like, well, I was going to go with dessert, but you typically don't have a lot of different moving parts when you're eating dessert. But like, yeah, if I'm sitting down with a meal, just having a piece of like soup is going to be satisfying to me. I really like soup, but if I don't have like a piece of bread and butter with it or something on the side, then that's probably not going to be as satisfying. So if you add a variety, then it will actually give you more satisfaction, because you'll be able to have the things that you want and then also have some nourishment that you also enjoy too. But people think that keeping the food out of the house is the best way to do it. Like, well, if it's not in my house, I'm not going to eat it.
It's like, girl, when you're binging, what do you think you're doing?
You're going to go find it anyway. We can't hide. We all always found it. So just make sure that you're having a variety of food that in your house, just to give yourself like that experience of having multiple things.
And like, to give yourself the options too. Like, having a few things readily available is helpful when you're trying to figure out what's going to be satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so lastly, just really, I think this is like a really big one for me, is don't settle. It says here in this sentence, you are not obligated to finish eating a food just because you took a bite of it. That is, I think we've all done it. Like, oh, it's here, might as well just have it. It's okay. Like, no. I am like very intense about it. And I don't want to say that because that sounds like too black and white, but.
Especially if it's like I'm not that hungry. I just thought a cookie would be good. And this is like not a good cookie. Whereas like sometimes for lunch, what's available is what's in the fridge. And sometimes it's not that great, but I need to eat something. So there's like always
there's logic. There's the logic in it. Like, yeah, it's not like, well, that doesn't really taste good, so I'm just going to not eat lunch. Of course not. But a lot of the time, this is kind of more the rule of like, wow, I genuinely don't like, because sometimes, I guess an example is there was some family over, I got like these chocolates from Trader Joe's, and I was hearing like how good they were. They were so good, so good. And so like, okay, I'm going to try one. So they were a good enough size, but they were just like a piece, and I grabbed it and I took a bite, and it was fine. There was some chocolate in it, some like it was like a s'mores type of thing. It was like chocolate and some marshmallows and graham cracker. Like I like that taste. I'm not saying, but when I took a bite, it was just, yeah, I could have eaten it. Sure, I could have finished it and it would have been fine. But I took a bite and was like, no, I definitely don't want this. So I'm gonna take a bite and put it back, and I'm gonna go get what I actually want. Mm-hmm. And so I went and got like the other chocolates that I enjoy. So I would never and I feel like that would be like really abandoning myself if I just said, well, I'll just eat this for now. I know I like that other thing a lot more. You can set those boundaries too. Like, no, I don't like this. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to continue to, it's almost like you respect yourself
I
in
don't
a
have the
way.
time or energy to waste on this food.
Right. Like I'm like really passionate about this because I really just want to be eating, and it has nothing to do with like healthy or not healthy or at all. It's like, no, I genuinely want to go eat that chocolate because that actually gives me a lot of satisfaction. If I ate the chocolate that I didn't really like, I'd probably go eat the other chocolate anyway because I'm not saying that's a bad thing either, but that's not what would feel good to me. So it's really important to ask yourself, do I even like what I'm eating? And if the answer is no, then go find something that you do like.
If
Don't
you're
settle
able.
if you're able. Like kind of it's more of like probably like I don't know. We always kind of talk about if somebody brings like some desserts or cookies or donuts in a staff room and it's like they're old, it's at the end of the day. You wanted the donut that was fresh in the morning, but like you didn't get to it. So it's like, sure, of course, still have it if you want to eat it, but go get a fresh donut on the way home, or wait for a time when you're able to actually go get something that you really enjoy instead of like, that wasn't really even that good. I think all of us have that experience where it's like, wow, that was really not even good.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's, and I'll reiterate, especially when you're kind of eating it for pleasure and it's not even pleasurable. It's like,
yeah.
I'll eat stuff for lunch and I'm like, hey, shovel it in because this is what's in the fridge. Lunch is my hardest meal. Like I don't always have like things ready to go for lunch. And so I'll just eat random food and it's like, whatever, I'm hungry. So there's going to be that moments, but especially when it's like optional food. It's like, I don't really need to eat anything right now, but this is in front of me and I'm just going to eat it because, and it's not even that good. Like it's probably, you're not going to feel good mentally or physically after that, probably.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, those were the two principles that we went over today. We're going to continue to go over the next 5 in the next couple episodes. We just thought this was important to just reiterate back into anybody's languaging of intuitive eating, or just like wherever you're at in your experience. If you just started or you've been doing it for a really long time, it's just kind of nice to come back. Even like I haven't opened the book in a long time, and even just looking at the book, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting, or that is so true. It's actually really nice to come back and flip through the book and see what it really has to say, because of course we are not the creators of intuitive eating. Evelyn and Elise are, so props to them.
And we will put the link to their book. We will put the link to our journal, Undiet Your Mind, Eat with Ease, if you want to do journaling about this type of stuff. We will put the link to our app if you want to do more mindset work, called Undiet Your Mind app. This is all about audio trainings. We have written articles coming in now. We have non-diet movement videos in there. We have courses and meditations, all geared towards retraining your brain to think like a non-dieter. So that's a great place as well to go and do this mindset work.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you back next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.